Kristen, do you need to change the camera, anything on the camera setting, or is just WebEx it?
Nope, just WebEx.
Okay.
Yep.
We're good?
Yep.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is 6:04. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. If you would all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we have, Gigi is traveling, so she will not be present at this meeting. And Jeff is tied up and trying to make his way here. So he may be joining us. If he does, we will note it when he arrives. So tonight we do have a quorum. It's myself, Nate Oxnard, and Andy Reardon making up this meeting so far. We have minutes for July 18th. What is the wish of the board? Who's presented? We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Second. Moved in second. Any additional discussion?
Yeah, one item, I think it said cafeteria at the top. It was in the library.
Okay, any other changes?
Participants has 2 A's.
Oh, there's about 3 misspellings that I have corrected. I'm sorry, Mr. Langboys. Your name a few times.
I've been called worse. All right, any other changes? Favor? Aye. Aye, all right. Care of minutes. Let's see here. Public comments. Do we have public that would like to comment?
Greg Whitmore, North Road. All right, so there's something missing from the agenda tonight, and that's high school options. I remember way back in the day, it was promised that in August, we would be getting an update about high school options, and August is, well, this is it. So hoping tonight that someone will say something regarding high school options. It's not something that's just near and dear to myself. When I come to these meetings, the things I bring up, I'm not just representing myself, I'm representing a lot of people who I communicate with, online and in person, just conversations. So there's many people who are kind of holding their breath for what's going to come about from this. Okay, so the sooner we can alert the public as to what's going on with high school options, the better. Something I'd really love to see, and I hear this from a lot of people, is an increase in transparency and an increase in communication between classroom teachers and parents at home. What I would love to see, and a lot of schools have implemented, is if the teachers at the school could have a Google Classroom page set up where parents could just get on and check out the curriculum. Teachers could post homework, whatever it may be. A lot of schools do this. Most schools, it's optional or whatnot. Some it's required. But I would certainly love the ability to just get on Classroom and see what my daughter is doing at any given time. I've definitely heard that direct communications with teachers is sometimes tough. Emails don't get answered. They just kind of sit out there and in limbo. So it's certainly something to consider as we get into an age where many people are calling for increase in transparency, particularly in regards to curriculum, knowing what your kid is being taught when they're being taught it, the methods that it's being taught. That is something that parents are really looking for at this point. I had someone contact me that couldn't come to the meeting, and they were wondering about RSA 193(1)(c), access to public school programs by non-public or home educated pupils. And she was wondering what the new policies are going to be. This is becoming increasingly important because we've definitely had a big uptick in homeschool individuals, not just in Deerfield, but everywhere. So, we want to make sure that everybody has equal access to all of the programs. All right. That's it for me. Thanks.
I just want to note for the minutes, if you could, that Jeff arrived at 6:06. Additional comments? None? All right. Let's see. We have a couple of tweaks to the agenda here. So in facilities updates, I want to add a discussion about the fire alarm panel. We want to add an item H in regards to the back to school barbecue. Hopefully, so Willie can kind of just give us a quick update on that. Maybe, maybe not. And then non-public, we'll be going in under the agenda list, small letter K, but we'll be adding small letters B and C as well. Other board members have any items they wish to, oh, I'm sorry.
Just, sorry, that's okay. Just mention that there's 5 consent items now.
There's 5. Okay. Anybody else have anything they'd like to add? All right. So with that being said, Patty, let's work through the consent items.
Sure. So a couple might be for non-public, but for public, we have Dale invoices to approve. I think they were in the drive.
All right, we have 2 Dale invoices. Start with the Deerfield Summer School bus. We have 15 days. Total of 51,63.75. What's the wish of the board?
Second.
Moved by Jeff, seconded by Nate. Discussion regarding that.
Can I mention something quickly? I did put $5,000 in a grant to pay for the transportation.
Oh.
Summer transportation.
Oh, okay. So that will be covered by that,
Yep,
almost all of it.
Nice.
but not I did not put it in for the, transportation.
Okay, perfect.
Excellent.
So 163, we have to come from the budget.
Hopefully, we receive that grant, or
It's substantially approved, so I just have to.
Okay. Still have to pay them in the meantime.
Yes,
Yes.
but we'll get a grant
We'll
line.
get it offset.
But,
Okay. Awesome. Excellent. Thank you for
Where
doing
was the
that.
summer school before? This was at DCS, not at Concord.
Right, yeah, this next DCS, at DCS.
Additional discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. And we have runs to Concord for CHS orientation. And we have 2 blocks, 1377 each. So the total's up to 2750 both. Wish of the board.
To approve.
Second. Moved by Jeff, seconded by Nate. This is for orientation, so it's 4 trips twice. Additional discussion. Favorite? Okay, what do we have next?
Kelly submitted Concord High bus routes for us.
Those are in your packets. Certainly. I seem to start early, but I suspect they're very similar to what we've seen in the past. Did anything jump out at anybody in regards to the Concord routes?
Yes.
No, there's a separate document for the, yeah.
It's in your stack. All right, so this is for 2 routes to Concord. So wish of the board.
I guess I'll highlight what the parent brought up at the end of school, the kind of inequities that these kids have because of transportation. Seems to be extremely unfair with a 5:49 pickup. Can't be done in the same order as AM. Does that mean that the first on in the morning is the first off at night?
I think that is
and PM route.
Need to move it first.
Move to approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Second, so now we go into discussion.
Yeah, I read that as the same, right? So on the first bus, it looks like the first on is the first off. And it looks like the second bus is the opposite.
First on, last off.
I believe that's how I read the second bus. Because it would make sense because Swamp Road is going to be close.
It says, yeah, CHS 2 at the bottom, it says PM route done in reverse.
So that's our bus ride.
It's an hour plus, it's an hour. If you're at the, you're the last one off, it's about an hour out until, right? Well, 5 minutes.
And the reason that they're starting so early is because where you've been taking the buses for our students to drop off, or what's the reason where?
They've always started that early. The buses, it's not the same buses.
In order to get to Concord on time
To get to Concord on time.
and the number of stops. They need to get to Concord by 7:20.
We had talked about doing central pickup locations.
Mhm.
Is there a reason that we can't do that? Shouldn't look at it? I mean, I know we're in August 17th here, but this just seems,
I mean, I guess you could take the early stops and make that offer to those families that if you'd rather drive your student to, wherever.
I think what the concern, I don't want to say concern, I think the thing you run into with that is you're still getting up and getting products across town in that case. So is there a net impact? Or are you just getting mom and dad?
Yeah, I mean, for the first bus there, that's what my daughter's on, and it doesn't come by our house, we drive. It's Mr. Sykes.
Yeah.
And so
So
it
you-
doesn't, it looks like we're in the minority, because I think the bus goes to most houses, or at least close enough where kids can walk. So I think it looks like some parts of town are doing that drive you're talking about, whereas other parts of town are not doing it. So it's a good question. Just to short the bus route.
yeah, I mean, right, because if they can avoid the 12 stops before Blue Bowl, for example.
Looking at bus one.
Yeah, on bus one.
To that extent, you could very easily say, we're gonna pick up at the George B. White building, pick up here, we're gonna pick them up at 6:35. But I don't know that we are in a situation to make that decision right now, because we haven't talked to parents. We could certainly ask Dale to reach out to the parents and say, hey, in lieu of this is what's currently improved. But if we, to give your kids an extra half hour in bed, say, hey, we can pick them up at 6:25 and get all the kids for that bus in one spot. Maybe in the afternoon, you bring them back to their houses, but maybe in the morning. But I think we need to put that on Dale to sort out.
Sure. And it wouldn't start until like second semester. I mean, you need time to sort of. I like the idea, but we thought about this 6 months ago.
But it is typical of transportation, you don't know what you're gonna have. We didn't know we were gonna have any drivers, what drivers, 2 months ago.
Could change between now and our next meeting.
And we should have a third, I mean, realistically, we budget for a third bus for the high school. So we're already down a bus in the high school, from where we want to be, which has an impact on travel times.
And did we get nowhere with Concord being the buses? Are they also short, so they can't?
They are short. I'm not sure that there's been a conversation with them. I thought Kelly said in one of her emails that she had already reached out to them for help. I think last time she was here, she said she had actually spoken to Terry. And at the time, they were short too.
Yeah, I remember saying that.
There are still signs up saying, looking for bus drivers. Concord, just like there are.
Can't imagine they've improved since that meeting.
I'm gonna start a transportation driver marketing company. I'm gonna blow it up. We're gonna stop putting banners on buses with discoverable methods.
So effective though.
Clearly,
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'd like to see Concord reach out, or have Kelly reach out, start reaching
I
out to
think-
families tomorrow and seeing it. I don't think it's that big of a lift for them. We have enough central pickup locations that,
you did 2 central pickup locations for each bus.
maybe a matter of, for parents leaving to go to work, what time is that? And can they, because these are all kids that obviously need a ride, so their parents are going to have to drive them wherever it is. And are their parents already leaving for work themselves?
I think it's a fair ask, and it's easy enough lift for Dale to figure that out. In central location, two central location, I mean, if we hit George B. White as a central location, that would get this half of town. So minus 10 minutes, and then we did,
Do the fairgrounds, something like the fairgrounds or Cottonwood area. Do George B. White. Well, really, we could throw that to Dale. I think the first question for Dale is just to ask the parents, hey, if we could cut their ride time down significantly, they have two central stops. Are you interested? And we can come back with details after they get a response. Parents may say it's not gonna work, you know, and it is what it is, and the conversation's taken. But I certainly think we should urge Dale to pursue that.
Yeah, and it's not gonna be on one bus, it'll be two buses, so it could be like the north half of town, the south half of town, one goes out north, one goes.
And then as far as Concord's availability to assist, I think us, the way to get that is we probably need to reach out to Concord, or needs to reach out to Concord. Maybe. Hey, got any extra drivers or any extra transportation? We're probably gonna get a no, but we may as well ask. At least it's coming from the highest possible level within our organization. All right, we still need to approve runs or the buses don't go. So what do you guys want to do? People park or send? All in favor? All right. What do you have next there,
All
Frank?
right, we had a request today, actually, this afternoon, and I promised this parent I would try to squeeze it into the agenda. A parent has, signed a purchase and sale to sell their home, and the closing date is September 15th to move to Deerfield. So she's asking for permission for her child to come to,
Yes.
yes, to start, so that they don't have to go to a different school for 2 weeks and then come.
Preschool.
No, kindergarten.
Okay.
Yeah.
There were two different.
Yeah, I think there's,
The others, the sibling for preschool knows that there's a waiting list for preschool, so it's really about.
move to approve the kindergarten.
Second.
In favor? Oh, sorry.
Would there be, at what point we should follow up on that, make sure that, is it by October 1st, that if it doesn't come through, then.
We're gonna have-
That's what happens when you approve these things, we know closing dates can get, postponed and might not happen on or before the 15th, but I think it seems like once you have a kindergartner start school here, unless it fell through, you would let them stay until the closing happens. You just run the risk that it might be delayed a little bit, but it seems like they're coming no matter what. It's just, is it gonna happen on September 4th?
And what happens if the whole thing falls apart and we don't end up closing? Are we able to revoke there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Do we need to put a time limit or that, this is approved for 1 month?
so we could ask for like the closing or the whatever you get at the closing to prove it.
Oh, the
sale went
residency?
through.
Yeah, I'm thinking, yeah,
are you thinking more just like the end of the semester or something? like
I,
that?
I think we're.
We can
thinking-
check in, like you said,
I think-
October
I think
1st.
we just check in. I think we're thinking a little too.
Yes.
I don't
can
think
do
there's a
that.
giant conspiracy of people trying to smuggle their kids into other towns, kindergartens.
Well, they have a purchase and sale, so.
We have a copy of the purchase and sale.
Yeah.
So I mean, we have a pretty clearly defined document. I can't imagine there's that much of a ruse to kindergarten kids anymore. All right, all in favor? By the parents, thank you. You get next. Non-public.
Nope, there's one, I think, for non-public, looks like. So we have handbook changes that are very last minute, but Mrs. Withy has them highlighted and most of it is language change, I think. So we were hoping that you would entertain a little conversation about handbook changes, if that's okay, since we are in August 17th. She has them for the,
Oh, here it
yes.
This is way ahead.
Right, well, we've been working on it and I think we've been waiting for it to be on the agenda and it wasn't.
Yeah, unless someone says put it on the agenda, it's not gonna be on the agenda, so.
I don't look at the agenda and go, Where's that handbook?
So August 3rd, though we wouldn't even got to it.
Yeah, we had a half-hour meeting.
So,
But we've been working on this since July, really, we've been tweaking it, so. You want, is it
Okay.
it looks like you've already started.
Well, I just gotta pull back the curtain here.
It's your newfangled screen.
Um, okay, I'll go through just.
Now, wait a second, it's a touch screen and you're still gonna use the mouse?
Yeah.
That's just wrong.
Well, I want to be at the computer. Easier for me to see on the computer. So we'll basically fix the page numbers once we have everything in place that we would like to have in place. I'll just do the calendar. So Brian usually does this. I'm just trying to wrap my head around. So we've got a couple crossouts in terms of the people who don't really contact the office to find out information about focus. Class websites. Oh, I know the yellow highlights are questions of what we should do with them. We might need to check in with a couple people like Brooke. Petroselli, the class websites aren't anything that teachers really keep up with necessarily because a lot of teachers in the upper grades do use Google Classroom and at the younger grades. And we went through to try to see if there was anybody that kept up with it. So we're not sure that a class website is relevant really at this point. So like I said, we wanted to check in with Brooke before we remove that, just to make sure that, and if she says, nope, there's teachers that definitely want to have their school website, and we'll keep that, but so that is a potential removal of that.
So then if a parent who's new is looking for information about what's going on in the class, where in the table of contents are they gonna go? And if they go to class, I mean, that seems like the right words to look for. I mean, is it worth keeping the subtitle but then saying, just use Google Classroom instead, or teachers use Google Classroom instead of class websites? Something to just sort of clarify.
Yeah, we might have something like that a little further down, but the class, I mean, the DCS website would still be there. There are many documents on the DCS website available. If they're looking for something, a lot of teachers do a weekly newsletter sent home with things that they're working on in the classroom. It's a fair question, and I guess.
What you just told me, where is that in this document? Like just the statement that says that teachers, send whatever you just said it exactly right. So if a parent has a question, this would be the place that a lot would go.
Under communication, it says many classrooms have a regular newsletter that goes home with each student.
Okay. Gotcha. So then is that redundant or should we keep class websites?
Right. Yeah, so now I think we just want to check in with Brooke and again, the teachers, because if they are using it, then we'll obviously keep it.
Is there a place that does say Google Classroom or something?
I think in the middle school section, we'll find out about the Google Classroom Alma. There's a whole, we do, and I know that the middle school themselves does a whole, like Google.
The next one is Google Classroom.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the K through 5?
K-5 doesn't, they don't utilize Google Classroom's intended more for the upper grades in most of the schools that I've known, but here definitely. And I think upward 4th grade and up maybe has used it in the past, specifically when we were more remote and hybrid. They started utilizing that, and the younger grades started utilizing Seesaw to communicate, but.
Is that what you just said in here somewhere?
Well,
That, that there are no, that K through 6 don't tend to, or use classroom, websites.
Let's go through and see if it is, because we can add it in for sure. So here's middle school assignments and grades. So in a little bit, when I go over my principal report, I'll talk about the subcommittee work that's been going on this summer with the middle school. There have been 4 different subcommittees, and one has been specifically focusing on academic consistency. So we went through the middle school sections of the handbook and tried to update some of the language to match what was happening in the school and what we wanted to, moving forward, what we were hoping to have in place. So where it is green here, is what is a standard practice that most middle school teachers or all middle school teachers will be using. Middle school assignments are available, and originally it said down here in the cross out, kids, students can access yada, 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 all of that, but basically middle school assignments are found listed in student planners. It is the student's responsibility, this is in middle school, to document daily assignments in each class, utilize their planner for any up to, and all of our middle school kids are given a planner at the beginning of the school year. They go through a planner boot camp where they learn how to find where the assignments are listed on whiteboard, how to put them in their planner. So they definitely go through all of that. Assignments could be a paper handout or a digital assignment found in Google Classroom. It's the current it is the student parent guardian responsibility to regularly monitor grades and or missing assignments in all not. And then to take out that students can access all assignments from home or school, parents are provided access to their child's Google Classroom account. That doesn't have, we don't give parents access to the Google, it's that through the student has access and the parent can access it through the student's account. Where students receive daily and weekly updates. Middle school grades are available through the parent portal using Alma, which is the case, but we put it all together up here. And as you know, the rest of the language has not changed in terms of grades being updated weekly.
Well,
Yep.
so if a student is out for a week because of COVID, then if they're not sitting physically in the classroom, then they can't, because a physical planner is useful if you're in the classroom, but if you're out for a week.
The most assignments are posted in Google Classroom, but if there is a paper handout, the teacher would keep that aside for the student when they return. Or, if they know that if the student's looking for that handout, they can upload it into Google Classroom so that they can access it through Google Classroom.
Feels a little bit like 21st century and we're not, I mean, I wonder why we're taking out the accessibility part when everything that,
The student planner is so that they can keep track of their assignments. It's that responsibility of writing something down, being able to keep track of that. But, to specify what the assignments are either a paper handout or a digital assignment on Google Classroom. It's not, are you thinking that the planner is not 21st century? Is that what you're?
no, planners are good, but they're, in terms of just supporting students who are, absent for 5 days does come to mind just because of 2 days and 2 years of pandemic. And then this sort of physical nature of having a physical planner is not a bad thing, but why not also have the assignments on the if a student missed filling out their planner, they couldn't then check when they get home and see on the website what the assignment is. It's either in planner or not.
I think they're in Google Classroom.
The assignments are, I don't know if they,
But
teachers.
if a parent's trying to support their child,
Mhm.
a second grader who has homework, and somehow the second grader.
This is middle school we're talking about.
Yeah.
This is middle
Yeah,
school.
yeah.
We're in middle school.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We're not.
But no, and I-
It's like, this is the 21st century. Why, it feels like we're going backwards, which is not a bad thing. Responsibility is important, but are we all, I just am hoping that we're also supporting students who, learn differently and all that stuff. And to me, having a place where a parent can go and support their own students by looking and seeing what the assignment is, if they're out for 5 days.
Well, that's going to be in the Alma section.
The assignments are in Google Classroom. They are in there. I don't know that a teacher would necessarily write out what they would write on the whiteboard. I don't know if that's in there. But the assignments are posted in Google Classroom. Almost every middle school teacher puts most of their assignments in Google Classroom. A paper handout might be something that, during social studies time, they might get a thing to read and answer the questions. Or in math, there's a lot of paper handouts in math. But a lot of them are uploaded into Google Classroom.
So if a student misses filling out his or her agenda or assignment book,
Mhm.
they get home and they don't know what the assignment is to do, the directions are not necessarily, they might be, if it's up to the teacher, to put the actual, what the assignment is, like questions 5 through 10. That would not necessarily be accessible online because the child didn't put questions 5 through 10 in the planner.
I'm just trying to think of your own children, if that, I don't, micromanage the Google Classrooms thing, so I don't know what it necessarily looks like from teacher to teacher.
Yeah, just as, I guess, coming from a teacher's perspective, if my student doesn't necessarily fill it out for whatever reason, I also put what the assignment is online, so he can go see.
But that's you doing your planning and kind of managing your classroom. So I certainly get where you're going from, but I also think, are you amending this to micromanage the staff? Or is the expectation?
I'll defer, but I guess my question is more about what's best practice in the 21st century in terms of educating.
I think there's so many mediums that the staff is able to communicate and kind of disseminate information, whether it's through Google Classroom.
And we're getting questions from the public about how communication is working. And so maybe having all these channels and leaving it up to the teachers is maybe creating confusion for our community members.
Yeah, I
Parents
think-
who are trying to support their students.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think that it's being, it's such a busy world. And even if it's just changing it to your teacher's going to communicate how to communicate, I still have not figured out how to use Alma. Like that's, and so put that on me, but then with the Google Classroom and Alma, I think if we could get consistency and whether the teacher wants to use whichever channel they want, whether it's Google Classroom or their classroom website, but making it very clear at the beginning of the year, this is how information will be dispersed, and this is what you need to use because, like, why do we have Google Classroom and Alma? To me, as the parent trying to make sure my kid's doing okay, I think there is a disconnect that occurs, and for me, I end up just hoping that my students doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Alma's a separate function. Alma's grading reporting. Right, that's the function of Alma.
So if they have missings, where does the parent go to find out their missings?
That would be grade reporting, right? So they're doing the work.
It's kept up in like live time now?
They're utilizing, it's weekly, it's updated. It's still weekly?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's updated weekly. So grade reporting is on. That's how you see past performance, for lack of a better term, right? But as far as your day-to-day functioning of a student, that's done primarily through the classroom. So they're independent of each other.
Even if we could just have the teacher explain how they're going to.
I think the students have.
The students absolutely know.
Oh, the students, yes. If you have a good student that does their work, you don't have to worry about it. But it's like, how do we get that information to the parents in their very busy lives that they know exactly where to look and not wait for the, letter home that they're on academic probation.
I'm happy to defer the details to the administration, but that seems like it's still a question, is how is communication effectively working? And it's been something we've been talking about for as long as I've been on the board. And we've been talking about Almond for 3 years and we still aren't be sure how, the nuts and bolts of it. And we're not sure how, we're trying to support our community here. And so that's just.
I'm happy to bring back my Alma presentation that I did a couple of years ago. I mean, and I know Brooke does a video that's available on the website on how to use Alma. I know that she's been working with any new families, all of our new families that come in from kindergarten on up. They're trained to get on and do their stuff on Alma. And the kids absolutely positively know how to use Alma. They are trained, they know, they get there, they know where their assignments are, they know the
They're
interest.
better with it than any of their parents,
Right.
which is understandable. It's the system they're using.
But I think what Nate's saying is that it's the Google Classroom side of this that has the potential discrepancy.
Google
because it's
Classroom is
assigned.
not for grades. Google Classroom is for assignments.
Right, but what
Great,
he's talking
Google Classroom is for feedback on assignments, but it's not where you find the grade.
Right, and that's the point that Nate was trying to make. It was specific to assignments. If a student missed a class where they were told what was due and when, then they wouldn't be able to put that down in their planner. So if I'm understanding correctly, what's due and when that they didn't put down in their planner.
But in that case, the responsibility falls on the student to make sure they're keeping up with their work.
And I
Right, so
think
if
it
we
is,
spoon feed everything to every single student, I'll play the hard role here a little bit, right? So we want to give them tools to develop into responsible adults. And as they're learning, to learn that they need help, they need to ask for it, to a certain extent, right? So they know that they have a planner, they have a tool, they know that if they use the tool, they will help them succeed. But Do we create 15 different redundancies so they don't have to use the tool in the first place? Do we create a certain bit of responsibility to say you have a planner, keep track of your assignments, and if you find that you're missing something, you need to stop and ask, what am I missing? Okay. The staff wants to help, the teachers want to help, they're not gonna just kind of hang them out to dry. But where do you transition, especially in the middle school levels, that certain burden of responsibility onto the child to say, you're responsible for you right now, and so we're gonna give you a bunch of staff, we're gonna give you tools. And if you find that you can't utilize the tools or things are missing, ask. And maybe they'll ask and the teacher goes, well, I uploaded everything into Google Classroom. Great, and they go backfill that way. Or they go and they say, I think I'm missing something from Google Classroom, or I'm missing something from that. But you gotta, I mean, we can't send our kids off to prom and show up and cut the chicken for them while they're sitting there at the table, right? We gotta create this little bit of a,
I think the problem is that, yes, so the tools are there. I think the point is that we could do a better job, whether it's through communication, beginning of the year communication or through our handbook, but make it a very clear cut and non-murky.
but that, a lot of that comes up when we do the orientations.
But I think the point is that I guess I disagree with that because I stay as involved as I can. It's still not entirely clear to me. I think in the, handbook here, it's not entirely clear. So I think just, yes, the tools are there, but outlining very clearly for parents, the linear path on how this happens, and where to go for the information.
Then can you have a section that says Google Classroom, and these are the things that we found in Google Classroom? Alma, and there's, maybe, I don't know if that's been organized.
I know that Brian has done, has made available in the past, everything that there is to know about Alma and Google Classroom. I'm happy to link that document. If it's not already linked, I'll have to look up further and see if it's linked, but, and he sends that information home to all middle school families. That information is sent.
When it's a middle school meeting, it's usually all laid out at the middle school
Right.
meeting.
And that's, so we've done, in the past, we've done the middle school meetings at the barbecue, 15, 20 minutes. It's a lot of information. So for 2 years now, we wanted to not do that and have a 6th grade meeting, a 7th grade, and we did an 8th grade meeting. We haven't been able to do that for 2 years. And so our hope is that we're able to do that this year. We have 6th grade families, talk about the process, talk about Google Classroom, talk about Alma, go through that, all of that information. Through September, tomorrow, we're meeting with the middle school. We're gonna calendar out those dates so that we can have them available for families to know.
There's a section above that says student Google accounts in the Alma parent portal. And then it just basically says these services are used for course management, digital portfolios, and classroom communication. And then it says some teachers also use Google for students to access classroom activities and assignments. So it sounds like it's like the one-off teachers who are, I don't know what the appropriate phrase would be, but they're providing another mechanism or medium to access information that maybe other families or students, don't have. I don't know.
I mean, ultimately, my own opinion is every teacher teaches a little bit differently. Teaching styles are going to be uniquely their own, and they're going to utilize different tools. If a parent finds you're missing something, I have never in my life found a teacher to be unresponsive to a question. And you get emails back at 10 o'clock at night, teachers are responding. So, I understand a desire for parents to think, they want to find more information, but I can't imagine a situation where you ask and you say, hey, can you help me? I'm just trying to find this, and not getting a response. So again, this is intended to be a very high level document, right? And I don't think we should be micromanaging through, we shouldn't be managing anything through a handbook, we need to manage through policy. But I feel like we're just diving into weeds here that this isn't the place for the weeds. Let's keep rolling.
Just as a reminder, I always try to remind people, Alma, looking at Alma on your phone is very different than looking at Alma on a laptop or a desktop. Information that is put in there cannot be seen on a phone. So I always encourage parents and it's kids using the Chromebooks, but I always encourage parents and guardians to use some sort of desktop and laptop to do anything in because it's very hard to see. Teachers usually sometimes make notes. They list why an assignment is, late. So just make sure. I just want to repeat that. So again, taking out this is the DCS website, checking in with broken teachers. We will put it in the class website. So one column that these are all the forms of communication that we have. So basically we're talking about Alma, Google Classroom, the DCS website, one call now, email. Forum serves as the Candian, Deerfield, Northwood, Nottingham. This link to the forum didn't. Is that still happening? Is the forum still a thing?
So, yep, so
Maybe there, because the forum home link that has worked is not, just brings you to nothing. So maybe we'll have to update that. So that's highlighted so that we can make sure that we update or remove if we have to. Then we're talking about the PTO, the school board, all of this information. We get into academics. We're striking out the students in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade are provided opportunity to speak world language. That's being taken out this year, so we will remove that statement.
Except that the opportunity is still there and it will be supported or at least enabled, facilitated.
Yeah, but it's not going to be an IA class. It's not going to be an integrated with a class. If students are taking, take VLAX and it'll be accessed during study lab or at home. It would not be used during IA time. So we're talking about formative assessments. It provides a link between parent and child. It's just a tweak of language instead of saying parent and child between home and school. Vaping and smoking, and that is the smoke-free building and campus, adding in that language. I think I don't know if it said mail, but basically just change that to bus routes are shared by email and are available in the office. We tweak some of the language here, destination other than home. With our buses full to capacity, it's really the parent's responsibility, parent or guardian's responsibility to contact Dale Transportation to see if there's a ridership availability. So if a student is going home on Blue Bus and they don't normally take Blue Bus, they would need to call and make sure there's room on Blue Bus for their child to go home on. We added in there that they do have to stop by the office to receive a bus pass. The bus drivers will not let them on the bus unless they have a bus pass. That bus pass means that the office has received that change in plans for the afternoon. And then if Dale has been contacted to let them know that they're good to go.
Should put it in 6th.
Sure.
This isn't related to the handbook, but I feel like we should probably broadcast, because I'm assuming a lot of families don't read the handbook, but that's a pretty big change. We might want to let families know that.
I believe that's especially this past year we tell
Okay.
parents that all the time, but I'm happy to reiterate that for sure.
put it in early.
Yeah, we'll do that. Drop off and pickup procedures, let's see, I think we just added that. And then breakfast and hot lunch is currently free to all students. As you know, that's not happening in the state of New Hampshire for the 22-23 school year. So students will bring their money. Information is the same. So basically it was crossed out last year and it was added back this year. This is a direct link to the payment center. clubs and after-school enrichment. We just added the language after-school enrichment because it's more, we don't really have we don't have any clubs. There may have been in the past, but and there might be some in the future. But we added in there after-school enrichment. And then they're starting, if somebody is interested in starting a club or participating in after-school enrichment.
The second one, buses.
Yeah, I don't know that we did that last year. We had double runs in the morning and the afternoon. I think I just explained in the email that coverage is provided for the children. You know, we have games and things to color, and some kids work on their homework, and we were done by mid-October last year, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I don't think we want by the end.
Mrs. McConnell did a lot of language tweaking in the special education section. So as you can see, utilizes many different types of variety of learning strategies to help students reach their fullest potential. Some instances, parents, guardians have significant concerns. They question whether their child may have an educational disability, so instead of educational handicap, she's just updating some of the language that was outdated. Thank you. So taking off. All right, and then we put the Deerfield Dragon in there. We're hoping to probably put a cover page. We wanted, the subcommittees really wanted to make sure that even though Mr. Groove sends home the middle school section specifically to the middle school students, we think we're going to do a cover of some sort. So we'll add the Deerfield Dragons in there. Mr. Groove highlighted this more to talk as we're working through the work with the subcommittee groups. Might be tweaking some of this language. I'll bring it to you next time if we do. Just in terms of the direction that they're hoping to go. So nothing has been changed yet. One of the subcommittees is on behavior management, and we took a lot of information from the discipline code as well as minor and major infractions. Nothing was changed, but this was helpful to have when we're doing our work with that. So we added in here that any student who receives academic probation or suspension, that's still the same. And we took out additionally, if a student is on academic probation the week of the dance, they're not eligible to attend.
So
We just took that language.
I want to ask a question. Should it be the academic probation thing that they're not being allowed to attend a dance? Should there be something in there? I mean, if you've got a student that's never been on academic probation, you slide once, it happens to a dance. Should there be a little bit of discretion? Or should there be a little bit of administrative discretion? Yeah. I mean, we've talked about the probation things, so we've been moving the base, but maybe mom and dad are getting a divorce in the circumstances at home and he had a bad week. She had, you know what I'm saying?
You don't get on academic probation because of 1 week though. I mean, it's
But the kid that's on, well, but the way that's written, the kid that's been on academic probation for the entire year, but he gets off for the week of the dance. Gets to go to the dance, and the kid that's never been on it in 3 years doesn't.
the good news is.
I think if we're gonna talk about discipline section, I would want Brian here too. If you don't feel
That's a
comfortable.
normally thing. That's just a normally
Okay,
around.
yeah, I would want him to be part of the conversation,
And
if
the-
that's okay.
Good news is we have calendared out all the middle school celebrations and the dances and
And we're just not doing probation those weeks.
it worked out, it pretty much worked itself out.
Did it? Okay. Don't tell the kids.
No.
I want to say one of our policies talks about process by which we like review probation, and I think there is some discretion built into that.
There usually typically
I
is.
suspect there is, and if there isn't, there should be, and I expect you to take it, but. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I'm just saying. This isn't maybe the time to bring it up. but it's- Nate's been bringing stuff.
We're in the weeds.
Sorry, it's not the weeds. Go.
So we just,
Leave
we
that to the policy.
highlighted, sorry.
You're good.
Oh, boy, you using words against me? Very good.
We did highlight, probation occurs when students in 2 or more classes have any of the following in regards to summatives, a missing summative, insufficient evidence. That was language that was added to our report card, the year of the pandemic, we had insufficient evidence, so we've added that to the handbook. And level 1, not yet competent, or level 2, progressing towards competent with outstanding formatives. Not meaning like outstanding, meaning they're not done. Now, incomplete. Listed in all as missing, incomplete probation is needed. And then just goes into talk about what probation is, which you all know about. We took out the piece, the probation, if the student is on probation 6 more times, they are in jeopardy of not being able to attend their field trip. And we did take out these because 6th grade is likely not going to go to science camp. They did, the science camp came to us this year, and the 6th grade really enjoyed that work for those 4 days. 7th grade did go to a science kit, so that the end of year field trips likely are changing. And we haven't been to New York City in a couple of years. We might be able to go back this year. I don't know. So we struck out those 3 field trips because we're just unsure of what they will be. Student can reduce their probation. Administration shall review this on a case by case basis. So that in particular is.
One quick question.
Yep.
Just for the committee as they're reviewing the subcommittee, should they quantify? Should there be, with outstanding formative, should there be any kind of quantity assigned to that formatives if you're progressing towards competent? But you're missing.
5 or more. Or,
Yeah. Just a question, not just a, I think the clarity might be helpful, but again, I don't want to be no weeds.
I can make a comment over here.
That one might be larger.
So I've got a note there to talk to. We're meeting tomorrow as a group. I likely, they might say, well, some teachers have, 20 assignments, and some people have 2. So maybe the majority or 2. But I will definitely bring that up. Formative assessments often include daily, we just, updated this language, added this language, daily homework, classwork, aspects of long-range projects. Provides a link between home and school again, instead of child, parent, child. Highlighted the weekly, we added in this weekly estimate of homework is up above as well. So we added it down here specific to middle school.
Now you want to fight about homework again?
Struck the sentence assessment is meaningful and not given as busy work. It often includes daily homework and just continue with this responsibility of the budget at the time. Going to talk about some of the assessments down here a little bit more. Added in the language directly from the report card in terms of competence level. Students' responsibility, students' guardian to regularly monitor grades. Some of the assessments grades would put them only using a 4-point scale. Important that students take responsibility for their learning. Responsibility includes being attended in class, doing classwork, homework, studying for assessments, encouraged to reflect on their learning, reach out to teachers about possible reassessment opportunities. Students should schedule reassessments with the teacher. And then we go into the reassessment, which has not changed. So this might define it a little bit more, Jeff. If a student receives 1 or 2, they are eligible to reassess only if they've completed all related formative assignments. Students will need to make a plan with the teacher, reassess within 10 days. So it is all assignments. And then we get into policies that none of that has changed. And we might have fixed some of the links that weren't working. It is tricky. A lot of people aren't able to.
Is this, can you just scroll up a little bit here? I just want to see one thing. We're only referencing, I think we're referencing a handful of policies in the,
Yeah, there's only 3.
right, so is it better to not reference the actual policies and just link up to policies page to get updated?
Yeah, we checked into that and there were a couple that you had to actually publish the
There is.
policy, yeah.
Then I rescind my question.
Because we were gonna do that links for everything.
I rescind my question.
So this is linked, but often parents aren't able to get into that linked, so we definitely, we put in here Deerfield, this will bring you right to the SAU website for policies and then they can get into the policy. And named the policy JICK students.
I think that goes to the whole website thing you said a while ago.
So
It's navigation, searching.
Yeah.
Because if you go to the actual policy, you copy the hyperlink and you send it to somebody, it does nothing.
So someday, before I die, we'll get all 3 websites so that they're like, they see when.
That's it.
I'm gonna die in 18 months.
Right, any other questions? Any questions?
Questions? We need to approve this, Patty?
Yes.
Motion to approve,
Pending adjustments.
Yeah. I
that's amended.
Is there necessary follow-up on any of the stuff we talked about other than the?
The only thing would be the discipline stuff that I can just be kind of not in
Mhm.
Jeff, seconded by Nate, discussion on favor. Aye. That is, does that wrap up consent?
Yep, we have one for non-public that we'll have to come back to.
Correspondence. I think we had. From Chief, Assistant Chief Kavinsky regarding his thoughts on maybe holding an auction to clear out some stuff
I
in the
don't think I
building.
got that.
Did you get
I
that one?
don't think so.
Oh, all right. Did anybody see that?
Don't
You didn't share.
think that's
Assistant Chief,
negatory.
all right.
Next one.
Yeah, just forward it and I'll put it in the drive for next time.
I apologize. Thought that went to all of us. Not.
I have, we talking about the New Hampshire State Marshal.
Yeah, no, about
Yes.
the, some of the stuff, some of our excess stuff. All right, we'll talk about
I'll
that
leave it
next
to
time.
Brett.
It wasn't to all of us, so I guess technically it wasn't for you. All right, modular update, did we hear back from, what do you have? If, or anything?
Not definitively, other than, when we asked Dean about the board's ability to purchase something like a building, sort of a building. He wanted us to go back and make sure that there was no warrant article on that went to the town when we purchased it in the first place. So Ashley was able to find the last 2 missing years, which I think we were missing 97 and 98. And we did not find a warrant article asking for permission to buy the modular. So I think that means we're okay, but Amber needs to circle back to Dean on that one piece. And I don't believe Amber had anything for me from Sciabi in terms of the
Okay.
how you could purchase it with the
Well,
half
the next
money,
meeting,
and
maybe it's what happens.
we'll continue to work on that.
How did that come about?
Were you here? You weren't here at that meeting.
Okay, then that makes sense.
Would you like me to give you a real high level look?
Could you just throw
We
it?
spend $32,000 a year to lease those 2 modulars.
Right.
Okay, for $128,000, we can own 2 modulars. So basically, it's a 4-year. It's 4 years.
What was
So
the purchase price?
128.
No, I'm just throwing it down so I can.
Right.
I'm trying to listen.
It's 4 years.
Okay.
So board discussed it, and more than likely, they're gonna be there for 4 more years. Okay, or the potential is there, very strong potential. So we asked Shavi if they would consider allowing us to acquire them, but over a 2-year period, basically, $264,000 payments.
The logic behind that was the soonest we break ground on a construction project would be not spring, like early summer of 2023. It'd be early spring of 2024. And then construction takes 1.5 to 2 years.
So then at that point, you're already.
You broke it.
So we were
Best case scenario, break.
confident that when outflow of cash is gonna be the same. Difference is that at the end of 4 years, if for some reason the building expansion hasn't occurred, hasn't gotten legs, we now own them and don't. In year 5, we'll see a payback. It's the consensus was that it was, we're gonna spend 120,000 one way or the other, we might as well own them after 4 years.
And they're grandfathered, so we wouldn't have to, all that stuff.
And the maintenance that needed to be done, was already done.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's cool.
See what you missed? All right. Enrollment. Update?
Can I just jump in quick?
No,
There was a review of correspondence. I just want to say that there was 0.
yes.
Just want to record and say that there was 0.
Do you have an update for us for enrollment? If you don't, that's fine.
Sorry, I.
Don't apologize. Never say sorry.
Tried to buy time.
All right.
We have had a few more students added to our.
It's going up.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
definitely going up.
Maybe the
No,
next,
just nobody else is.
okay, maybe at the next meeting, we can just revisit. the
Happy
key.
to.
That'd be great. Facility update. So let's talk about a few facilities things. So. No.
At what point, or does it make sense at any point to take enrollment numbers and try to put it back into the formulas, calculations for student?
And then-
As the official state count date.
and that would be the one I want to use. That's what those numbers are very good. All right. Can I go, Andy?
Very good.
All right.
I'll pump the brakes again in a couple minutes.
Facilities update. So, let's start off with the largest of our projects. I'll provide the update that I can provide. And anybody else can jump in. The work, the 2 new tanks are in, so the 6,000 gallon septic tank, the 2,500 gallon grease trap are in. They are plumbed into the pump chamber, which is another 1,000 gallon cell. So that work is done. They're flooding the trenches right now to increase the compaction so that after they do the final grade and paving, we don't see a dip in the asphalt. The electrical work that had to be done to move all the lines that weren't where they were supposed to be on the plans has all been completed and retrenched in and taken care of. They're now working up in the upper field. Look at the upper field project as 2 separate leach beds because it's a butterfly system. The excavation and the additional excavation for, we'll call it field 1 for lack of a better term, the one closest to the stairs, is complete. They did have to dig deeper than what was originally anticipated. And then there was basically a trough that was about 1/3 of the size of the original field that had to go to that kind of maximum depth. Through the organics.
So it's just 1/3 of the whole.
Approximately. And if you were to go up there right now, you would see distinctly different colored dirt, but it was almost like a band through about 1/3 of the field. That had to be excavated. So they are starting to backfill with the clean, correct drainage sand. I think I had spoken to the contractor earlier today, just to try to get an update for the board. I believe he said he has about 1 foot of additional material to place in. And then he gets into the wash sand as a contract, and he can start the stone, the pipe, and building up from there. He knows the kids are back on September, August 29th.
Not September.
On August 29th. Breaks. He knows the kids are back on August 29th. His intentions are to have field day, for lack of a better term, up and running. That field will adequately support everything while he moves into the excavation. And I think when we talked to him yesterday, paving was scheduled for next week. So the paving down below and all that stuff will be done. Got it.
How, has it gone with GIF doing the inspections to make sure that we're not over excavating, under excavating?
I think that's where our trough came from, and our trough being the size it was, there was a bunch of additional test pits dug after those conversations, and GIF was out,
It's been here a lot,
he's been here a lot.
which is great.
So we've had the engineer's eyes on a big portion of this.
And I had to sign off again on a, I think he must be resubmitting new plans or revised, something revised with the state because I had to sign off for him to sign off.
Yeah, there's gonna be updates to the as-built as we go.
Updated maps of where the wires are and all that stuff.
Yes.
Go to the town or the state.
So Chris has been, so as far as like the electrical work that had to be done, which was pretty extensive, there was a ton of electrical that was nowhere near where it was supposed to be. So there was,
Do you mean where it's supposed to be according to like maps that we had that showed it here and it turned out?
according to the prints and everything we had, nothing was where it was, where it should have been. So there was a lot of rerouting of electrical to get it all where it had to be. That involved tearing up more asphalt and additional trenching. But Chris has mapped all the stuff that went back into the ground, photos, measurements, dimensions, locations, what's in the ground. We put a couple of additional conduits in the ground so that we have chases underneath the asphalt in the event we need them, rather than having to saw cut and tear up asphalt. So Chris has done that. Chris has conversations with him. He has taken hundreds, if not 1,000 photos to this point. It's a couple times a day during progress. Pictures of all the Volkswagen size numbers on the ground. And everything.
Where are all these files going to?
So
The next 30 years.
Chris is housing them at the moment, and then I had already talked to him about getting them uploaded into, with the SAU into our server, whatever you want to call it, so that everything's there, and then with his notes in it, so that 20 years from now, we can walk outside and there's a line and push from here to here, and it's 6 feet wide and 5 feet down. A lot of the electrical wasn't installed per current standards, and quite frankly, the standards, I don't recall them having changed in the last 30 or so years, so there wasn't caution tape buried above the trenches, they weren't filled in clean sand. Typically, when you're excavating material and you get into like a nice band of really clean wash sand, that's usually an indication of something buried. Slow down. That wasn't, none of that was done, so there was a lot of improperly done. What we found up in the ball field is a huge case of improperly done. And whether it was done, intentionally, done to save money, but fortunately, the remedial factors are we have to fix it. It needs to be. So that's currently ongoing and promising finally to see dirt going back into that gigantic field up there. So once they get the rest of the fill in and they start bringing stone in and start to see pipe going, and the process will start kind of progressing along a little bit.
Seeing the size of those boulders, I'm assuming that would fully explain the sinkholes and that this will take care of that.
Yeah.
They're enormous.
That the field, the work that's being done up there is going to address, at least within the envelope that's been opened, any of that sinkhole issues, because the material's not there anymore. Right? I took some pictures of, there was a pile of rocks. One of the workers had his truck parked up there. They were the size of his pickup truck. And that should have never been laid in. It should have been, you can vary that stuff, but you need to be a little bit more deliberate.
Not under baseball and soccer
Not
fields.
only the baseball and soccer field, you certainly need to take your time and layer it in with sand so that you don't get sinkholes. That wasn't done, we should hold them. So the correction's gonna be, obviously, it's gonna cost more than we wanted to, but it's gonna be done properly, and it's gonna be something that's not discussed in this community for quite some time.
Another perspective is if you walk up or down the access road, and you look at the side of the field, you
Yeah.
can see pretty much the size of what was buried underneath center
And
field.
those are actually a lot smaller.
Right, but it at least gives you a perspective, and a whole bunch of,
It's a shame, a lot of nice rocks were buried, a lot of nice rocks were buried there. I mean, you could have built walls all over town with all that rock. So that's that update. Questions on that in regards to that?
So you had mentioned the oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
You had mentioned the paving, in the back. And I spoke with, the gentleman from Galloway Trucking, is that?
Yep.
Yesterday, we went over the area that he is going to pave, all the area that has been dug up. And there was a small section, I don't know what these are small, but a small section that would have ended up being old pavement. So the whole thing would have been repaved except for this section that would just be old pavement. So he estimated that it would be about $7,000 to complete the whole thing, so that all of that asphalt is repaved, and it all looks new. He was supposed to send an estimate but I received a mail delivery subsystem mailer demon. And when I emailed and said, were you supposed to send me something? The email came back and there's nothing attached, so.
So I noticed there was some new markings out there, so I'm assuming that's looking at the sockeye. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And so there's probably, if you go out and look in the back corner, you can see a diagonal line kind of squirted out where the first socket will go. And you can see another line, basically everything between is gonna go. It's like this is probably some square feet, kind of tucked in the corner, which can be patched in, and they'll patch it around, and there'll be, a seam there. Or we can redo it. If we redo it, it would basically take one slice out of that parking lot. You'd have one slice going across and everything going from the cut to the right.
are you talking about as far over as in front of the loading dock?
Yep.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's.
so the loading dock we've already taken care of.
Mhm.
This is just basically, it was, if you're standing behind the building looking towards the playground, it would be to the left of the generator and the right of the basketball.
Yeah.
And there's a diagonal piece there. Basically, if you look where the trenches are, that is around where one of the trenches would go. So it's a, do you deal with it now or do you let it happen next time as a repeat?
The amount of money we've spent, I think we wait till we repay. Personally.
Is there any risk for like, because of the two surfaces coming together, like, frosties and then cracking and stuff? Unless it, versus like fresh on all.
So it's certain,
What, 700 square feet? Is that 7,000?
yeah, it's probably about it.
And I don't know any better. That's the only thought that comes to mind for me.
I mean, I would certainly think from a durability standpoint, the less seaming you have, the better, but at some point, there's always going to be
An edge.
an edge, right? It's just, how many edges do you?
Yeah.
I would defer to tear it up and pave it all. But my opinion is that's true.
Kind of on the fence because it's like if we're gonna, if we're trying to do everything right, that the question that I have is it right to leave it to save the money? Or is it right to then pave it so that, everything's uniform and there's no,
Is it worth taking a 5-minute walk to the backyard so that the boys can see
You're
it?
gonna be able to see it from a window. From one of the,
Classrooms.
Sure.
let me go check if we can see it from a window. If not, we can. Is that
Okay,
okay?
that's fine. At least that,
We didn't get a formal quote or anything, it's.
Yeah, that's the other question.
We're just sort of.
I mean, did he tell you 7K?
He said he thought it would be about $7,000.
You could,
So I asked him to put it in writing and receive it.
so you could move it around to $7,000.
What was the last meeting we made an adjustment to the paving?
19,000, something
What is
like that.
that?
That was so the contract was to replace the asphalt in the areas that are disturbed. Right, so you have to cut out where the septic tanks are,
Yeah.
and tear all that asphalt up. Saw cut, so it's nice clean edges and patch and infill and repaint.
Yeah.
So that's the contract. So obviously, they had to over excavate for the additional trench work to get the electrical in, so that will be what it is.
The extra was the 19,000 from last.
No, the extra was for us to pave behind the loading, not behind the loading, behind the dumpsters, between the generator house, the generator and the oil tanks where the trash trucks come in and gets sinking in the mud. So that's all gonna get repaved. So you're gonna go from that diagonal cut where the primary trench is right now, over and up between basically the turnaround for the trash trucks, and then up the backside of the building a little bit towards like the back corners maintenance door. So that's all gonna get paved, so there's just one little sliver that's outside of any contracts, because it's not the area we change ordered, it's outside of the excavations of the tanks. And that's the part that's in question, so it's that chunk, do you pop it out of the ground? So it's one clean level, you can't skim over it. If you skimmed over it, you'd end up with a weird elevations, you would skim over it next time you repave everything, right? So in whatever, 5, 10, 15 years, whatever it is, you do it 1 inch layer over the top of everything, then you could skim over it then. But you couldn't skim over it now because you'd be.
Yeah, I don't think it's a priority, I agree with Jeff. When is the 15 years is unlikely, nothing, no pavement and damage will last for 15 years. So like, when but this was all done 6 years ago? And so
And you
we-
probably have up to 10 years.
Not that many years left until we got into.
The nice thing is, we don't see a ton of traffic. Not like a road does. Yeah,
You can
so
decide that.
just to make sure that we're kosher, do we just recess for 5 minutes or we go on field trip?
Yep, recess.
All right, so we're going to 5 minute recess.
Are you going to pause?
Yeah, we can pause the
No one's on, so.
If anybody wants to join us to see what we're talking about, you know. What room did you go to?
Kira Peasley's, so go around the straight. I kept the door open and
Down, go to your left, your right, straight down.
Mrs. Withy's pausing it.
stop pressing stop the record button, Patty.
Yep.
3, we are back from our brief recess to go look out back. What do you guys want to do?
Leave it.
Leave it? Leave it? Leave it? Leave it? That's left. Got it. All right. That takes care of that. Any other questions on the septic system? No? All right, we added fire alarm panel to facilities update as well. Patty, do you want to
So-
do this?
We were able, we didn't get any bids on the fire panel. We called several vendors and no one was able to, they just didn't have time. So we followed the model of the engineer and asked for help from the company that takes care of the town. And RV Lewis has done things for us before too. So RV Lewis did agree to try to help us out, but it would be in lots of little phases, which he's been very accommodating because the chief is looking for a resolution to this issue, obviously. So he did put something together. The bottom line is pretty much what we anticipated. Actually, I think it's a little less than we anticipated. It's $188,650. He has been talking to Chris about how he would pull this off. He has our calendar with all of our vacations. He's coming up with a process to rewire one small section on one floor, rewire another section, take a vacation and install some things. So this is definitely going to be spread out and hopefully the chief can be okay with the plan once it's finalized, should he get awarded the contract. And he and I have been talking about maybe invoicing as he goes, because typically you do a project and then you pay for it at the end. This is a huge financial liability for him, so I said that I didn't think it would be a problem if he did some work and then we paid for that portion of work. Yeah, as we went along.
Kind of the bus invoices or whatever, periodically, that deal.
Yeah, just look at it. So this project is basically the second phase of that fire alarm system. So the first phase was the panel, which we did last year. All familiar with that. So the second phase is basically the devices throughout the building, and the wiring going to them has to be replaced. That's a part of the project. So a lot of the work obviously is you can imagine, there's an awful lot of wiring that has to get chased throughout this building to satisfy the updated codes. So that's, okay, so obviously the approach, you come in, you run wirings, you bring them point to point. You put your new devices in, and then you start disconnecting stuff. Makes sense. Anybody need a warranty for the car? As far as, this has been a discussion we've had going on for a while. Everybody have a chance to kind of review his proposal?
Nope.
This proposal was based on the engineers, life safety engineers, drawings of the state fire marshal.
Right, so the planning is already been done, right? This is just an execution. of-
Yes, yes. And I'm not sure if anyone else got the email, but LBA offered to do kind of a midpoint inspection for us and to kind of check along to make sure everything's all set as we go along with the project.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be an important part of this, especially where it's being done. And fits
Piecemeal.
and starts, yeah. Almost like when they submit a rec, we should have.
Oh,
Yeah, which will be the FE come and
Okay.
sign off. Which will, cost us a couple thousand, but I don't trust. I want the fire protection engineer putting his eyes on it.
Does that mean it's monthly? Does that mean it's bi-monthly?
It's really gonna be working out with our school vacations. So he, he'll do as much as he can when we have a little bit of an extended time off. And then I think probably invoice whatever work he did for that period of time. And then I think if that's just a small piece, I wouldn't have the fire protection person come, but if it's once he gets a chunk of work done, have them come and inspect as we go.
One of the concerns I had with it is the conduit to the pump house.
We installed it.
That's already been
That
installed.
was part of why we added additional conduit. So I caught that in the plans and talked about, Chris and I had a very long conversation about that. And there was discussion as to whether or not it was going to be necessary. And my discussion with him is the ground is open and the asphalt's up. If we're putting conduit in the ground, we're doing it. So that's been done in around 2 weeks.
So that came off of this list?
That will be, it satisfies.
It was excluded in
Yes.
this price.
Okay, right.
They covered trenching to the modulars.
Yeah.
But yes, we caught that before we put down asphalt to figure out we had to tear it back up. Great. This reading fire engineering plans in my free time is how I love to spend my time.
So as far, we understand that it has to be sequenced because of logistics. But was there any discussion of when, this can't drag on, it can't be a 3-year contract?
Yeah,
right?
no, I don't think we got that far other than, he met with Chris and unfortunately Chris's vacation is this week, so he can't update us. All I know from Chris's update was they talked about it and he had our calendar and he was willing to do it during vacations. I don't know how many that involved. My impression was sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and I think they, they've demonstrated that they're responsive and understand the need for it. I would just want that, to work with them before we enter the contract where we find a
We're
mutually
comfortable with
agreed,
it, yeah.
this is
So-
what we're looking at for.
I can have Chris talk to him and come up with a plan and then maybe just email it out to the board. Not to have a online meeting, just informational, and then if there were concerns, someone just let me know and.
Do you want to, is it
I don't
feasible
wanna hold it up.
is it feasible to approve it pending?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, sure, I'm agreeable.
approval of the installation
Yeah.
schedule by the board?
Needs to be approved by the fire marshal.
Yeah, the chief's gonna be
We're gonna-
warning everything
And I guess by the board in the fire.
in terms of awarding the
Right.
contract.
With the timeline that he can do it, it needs to be okay with the chief.
Yes,
so.
yes.
And again, to stress and reiterate, we have a fully functioning system currently. We have a very new state-of-the-art panel running our old devices, but it has been tested and inspected and looked at by the proper people numerous times. We have a fully functioning system. This will just be a
I mean, it's-
current system when it's done.
Up to code.
Up to code. So if we were to approve it pending approval of schedule by the board and fire chief,
So
what do you want to do?
that's what it sounds like the concerns are. The dependencies are pretty much the fire and
All right, what's your motion?
what you said.
This is Andy's motion,
So.
dollar amount?
Yes,
Approve.
RB Lewis,
Approve the proposed package by R.D. Lewis for a total of $188,650 pending approval by the
Approval of the installation schedule
installation schedule
by the board and the fire chief.
by board and fire chief.
After that,
Fire chief.
Second.
Moved by Andy, seconded by Jeff. Nate, I'm sorry.
And the fact we got no quotes, just one, it's okay, because it is amended town.
yeah, yes, and we tried, we really wanted this done this summer, but we couldn't get anyone to do it.
Gonna get anybody to wait.
And yes, we just modeled it after the engineering, so who do you have in the town that's doing your work?
And we have town is utilizing our Lewis and.
Payment will be the same thing where this would go out of the budget, then we would use after the fact.
Alternate cost. So we'll have a do is have a public hearing. So
I guess I do have feedback on my own motion, talks about the payment terms. Do we need to talk anything about, it's gonna like be periodic or that says based on percentage?
Yeah, which is typical, so if they're 20% complete, they would get 20%.
So they would invoice us, but however far they progressed.
Yeah, and that's why we'd have LBA be the ones to certify that this is actually 20%.
Right, all in favor of the motion as motion?
Aye.
You'll notify Lewis and the chief and everybody else.
Turn this over to the chief, yes,
Okay.
and that LPA.
Just let the chief know that we're working on the schedule and they'll have an opportunity to weigh in on it. Okay. All right. Let's see, next up. Get back to the front page of my. Let's talk about the barbecue. What do you got? Anything? What time do I have to be here and what am I cooking?
Well, it starts at 4. Typically, I think most years we started around 3. Is that
On the
correct?
28th?
Do you mind if Nicole?
Can I move to the front a little? Is that?
You can.
PTO reports next.
It is. However, this just jumped into my mind. What day were we doing the barbecue?
Thursday, the 25th.
Okay, so 2 things. 1, really probably want to give Mr. Galloway a heads up that we are going to come storming the property on the 25th.
There's a lot of kids going on playground. That's.
They're not going on, they're not,
We're gonna need Chris to like rope it off.
backyard's closed. Unfortunately, we just have to, the backyard's closed.
I'll send an email
But
to.
we want to let Mr. Galloway know that.
Are there things we can distract them with out front or off to the side somewhere, like cornhole boards or something like that? I think we had those out last year.
Yeah, the
I think the
PE,
PE
yeah,
department had
Mark
that
brought
stuff,
some
right?
stuff
Yeah,
up.
realistically, the playground itself, well, that's next Wednesday, right? Next Thursday.
Correct.
So. two- come.
I think you're required.
I do have an engagement at 8 that night, so I have to be here by 6:30. So,
It's over at 7, so.
You better
Catching up
flip
on
burgers
cleanup.
fast.
That's
Right, and you were the brother that always went to the bathroom during dishes, weren't you?
No,
Mhm,
not, however,
That was epic.
all right.
mhm.
Can you let Andy know that though? So he knows
Absolutely.
to- Because there will be a lot of cars coming through. If the paving's done at that point, there's no reason why we can't utilize the playground, right? We should be out of there safely, I believe, but if not, somebody just needs to make a game time and close the backyard off or not. But obviously they'll be up on the floor.
Yeah.
Stuff going. Okay. Sorry, back to where you were.
No, I met, with Nicole last week, just to start talking about the process. We talked about the coolers that were needed, ice, we gotta fill the propane tanks. The grill that was in the, that's in the shed, two grills, we have 2 grills.
That's what I've heard.
We
I
have two
haven't verified.
Yeah. So we'll get the propane tank, somebody will have to get the propane tanks filled. So he's not doing that, even though it could be other duties as assigned.
There was a previous list where each of you offered to bring a propane tank or your grilling utensils or your coolers and things like that.
They brought in addition to the 2 tanks that will have to be
Right.
filled here at school.
So do we need tanks?
Yes.
Okay.
I remember towing a fridge of some
I
kind.
think that was last year.
That was borrowed from somebody.
I don't remember the details, just that I.
Yeah.
Your wife stole it from somebody,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's.
okay?
I think they got it back though, because I haven't heard about it since.
We had not lined that up because it seemed as though our coolers and ice had been adequate in the past.
I think we can get by with coolers and ice.
That was gonna be my contribution other than cooking and passing stuff out, so.
So we'll bring that.
Oh, no, it wasn't mine, so
Oh.
that's what I was saying. If it's not needed, then.
If you can procure it and get it here,
All right, so,
we'll have plenty of coolers and ice stuff.
all right,
Because I think that needed a generator too, if I recall. It was a fancy.
so I can bring a tank or 2, that's not a problem. I'll even bring with propane. Won't bring the empty ones. And then as far as procurement of the burgers and the dogs, we've done that through the kitchen.
Yep, and we, Mr. Grief was gonna work on sending an email to Meredith. She'll be back. Just takes her a couple of days. She usually orders things on
I'll
one.
probably order it, it'll be here Wednesday.
Yeah.
Like the day before.
Yeah. But we'll, she has a list of what she's done in the past.
So propane tanks will show up, we'll bring utensils,
A couple of utensils,
clean
coolers.
coolers.
Mhm.
How many do you need, or just throw what you got in the truck and we'll get the rest?
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna reach out to the American Legion because in the previous years, they let us take the ice from their ice machine rather than going out and buying all of that. So I'm gonna reach out to them again, maybe the Lion, see if they can let us, or Maz. There's a couple of places I think we
Have
can.
a big ice maker. And if it's, a board member, myself, I can stop and fill coolers just with ice if that's helpful, and then at least you can shovel it out. What else we need?
We've got the food covered because Meredith will get it. We're getting the extras, the watermelon that we always get, some cookies. We'll have some people to set up and serve. We're counting on you guys to do all the cooking. I assume you'll be the bun lady.
I have to be.
Can we get some ice cream? Can we serve ice cream too at this thing?
And sherbet.
There we go,
Sure,
sherbet.
yeah, we just need sherbet.
Non-dairy sherbet?
We served ice cream at the national night for the police officers. Holy mess. I was like dripping ice cream.
Wasn't it 197 degrees that day?
And it melted really fast. We were serving ice cream soup towards the end, so
You know, most ice cream stores, they get extra for the prep.
I should have charged extra.
Put it
Gross.
up, put it in a cup, give them a straw.
Unless you want to like get into like dry ice and like actually keeping it really cold, but no.
Yeah,
Cookies will do it. I think
Mhm.
cookies are.
cookies are fine. Awesome. Well, that's good. That's always one of my favorite days of the year. I enjoy that. And I love marinating and burger stench for 3 or 4 hours. It doesn't wash off right away. Any other questions regarding the barbecue? While you're here, would you like to roll into the PTO update? Is there a PTO update?
Yeah, we have a couple things. Our first official meeting is September 20th, Thursday. But in the meantime, obviously, we're going to be here for the back to school barbecue. And we've been working over the summer on preparing some fundraisers. Instead of our traditional catalog fundraiser that we do in the fall, we're going to try something new and fun, and we're going to do a sockathon. So they're the really cool socks. Everyone needs socks, right? So why not wear fun ones? It's animals and food and like crazy cats and sunglasses and tacos and every dog you can imagine. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. I think the kids can have a lot of fun selling it. We might have to forego our mums this year because mums have had a very hard year, we've been told by different growers. So we're still looking at a few avenues. Maybe we can still get some, but we might have to scratch that one this year, try again next year. The townwide yard sale, of course, is October 8th. So that is always a good thing for us. Brings a lot of people to town, a lot of fun. And I think that's it.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Very much. Hey, that's the exec board, Matt?
Wasn't that for a while?
No, it's summertime. Wouldn't it? We do know the CRB were going to strike, so that brings us to principal's report.
Yes.
You have one.
I do. Of
Okay.
course I have that. And fortunately, I was able to just take last week's report, just add a little more to it. But before I do begin with the formal update, I do want to bring up 2 things that I would like to just chat with the board about. One being that we have been unable to fill a long-term sub position for a first grade teacher. I have reached out to every contact I have. Every day I get emails from the listserv for the New Hampshire Association of School Principals with lists of, looking for a guidance counselor, looking for a long-term sub for this grade, that grade, the other grade. I know I know of a school district that currently still has 76 openings that they have not been able to fill. It's really rough out there. So administration is talking about making a pretty difficult decision in terms of what to do with that class. Do you want me to share what some thoughts are with you? So we have talked about pulling 2 staff members that would be pulled from their current positions and sharing the job with a morning, somebody covering the morning and somebody covering the afternoon.
Staff, are these paras or are
No.
these certified?
Certified, yeah.
So
There are a few paras that are certified. There are a few retirees that I've contacted and just nobody is able to do it right now. So, and at that point, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. And in this particular, if I'm going to rob Peter to pay Paul, I'd rather do it with somebody who's very qualified and certified. But there's some pros and there's a lot of cons with doing something like that. Having 2 different teachers, we're talking first graders. The other option that I want to make sure that the board is aware of is we're talking about potentially breaking up this in the Welcome's first grade class. And she has approximately 16 students and taking either of those students and putting them to Sperry's first grade class and then taking the other to Mrs. What that would do is put the one class would have 24 students and the other class would have 25 students. That is high for Deerfield, but it is still at the state standard. The state's in kindergarten, first grade is 25. The bonus to that is that we had made the decision to take 2 we typically have 4 classroom aides at the kindergarten level with our kindergarten classes being small. We decided to take 2 of those classroom aides and put them into first grade and have them basically in essence float between the 2 first grade classrooms depending on the needs that they needed, the support that they needed. Classroom aides are different than special education paraprofessionals. Special ed paraprofessionals, as you know, are driven by IEPs. The classroom aide is something that Deerfield has had for many, many years. There are 4 of them spent, that are paid out of the regular education budgets versus the general budget. So we have a paraprofessional, a shared paraprofessional in first grade. So we have 3 additional adults. So even though the class sizes would be upwards of 24, 25, we would have the classroom teacher plus an additional adult, and sometimes maybe 2 additional adults, depending on which classroom, because we'll have 2 classroom aides and a paraprofessional, so we'll have for 2 classrooms.
This
So-
is 3 months, right?
And thank you,
Yeah.
Patty. It would cover until the end of November. Her return date is right after this. So we're talking about 3 months. And at that time, we would then pull those students back out and transition them back into her classroom. And she would likely spend, a couple of weeks rebuilding that community and having them together. We would set up her classroom so that in essence, could be a third workspace for students to, if they were working in small groups or something, a small group could go in there and do some work as an additional space to spread out. So as an administration team and with a few of my certified staff, we're trying to figure out what would be best for kids in that. Does it make sense to divide their day between 2 teachers, or does it make sense to divide the class between 2 teachers and build that community? Have them start with. I can weigh out the pros and cons for both of them. So I have refreshed the position on Ed Jobs, and the other piece is that I will keep the position posted. This has happened to us in the past where we've gotten out to the wire and have not had something to cover, and then school starts and some people have maybe not got jobs or a seat position posted and do apply. So there's always that hope that somebody would apply for the position.
Kind of, you dropped that date on.
End of this week. I would need to notify families and
Plan,
students would need to know
set up. And
for sure.
What, you have long-term subs and regular subs, can you do a regular sub?
Yeah, there's really nobody available that, I think, so this person that will be coming in is responsible for planning,
To teach.
attendance, teach, foundations, Eureka, awareness workshop, it's not just coming in and being a regular sub. When subs come in and cover, they take the plan that the teacher left them. They'd be planning the centers, and the other 2 first grade teachers certainly help out with that, and I know that our math specialists will do whatever they have to do to help out. But it's a big ask for somebody that's just coming into sub, and isn't due. That's happened to my own children where they've had, 1 sub after another, and that's not good either for consistency. And
for the students, sounds like, especially the support of the best educational experience for them may be 2 larger classrooms. Studying support mechanisms and stealing resources from.
And that's what would happen. And so that would affect a larger group because they couldn't have intervention groups, or they could,
Because that's what you're looking at, is taking specialists away part-time. And so certainly they're delivering beneficial services, so.
it's not a time to take that's for sure. What's that?
I don't envy your position. Even if you kept it as small, because you combine them, then in 3 months, they're gonna be just majorly shook up when all of a sudden my best friend Timmy's no longer my class. So.
It's,
Do it like the Hunger Games.
I like that idea. We do have a hill,
Got a hill.
boulders.
All right. Well, it sounds like you're informing and not asking us to weigh in. So
I am, and I just wanted you to know because you will likely, get feedback.
Hear about it.
And I did not want you to be blindsided, so.
cool. Well, have fun making your decision.
Well, I'm not making it alone. We're not dying on that hill alone. No, thank you.
Who are you dragging in with you, Brian?
What's that?
Brian gets to go into that one with you.
When it's really bad, it usually is my fault.
It's your- Oh, Patty, let me know what you decide.
I actually.
I take it
you just made the
She
decision.
did, she asked.
So Your decision.
You let me know what you decide.
Then technically Patty's gonna play months.
Right?
That's typically,
I just do what the board
It's
does.
a triangle blend one.
that's typically what,
In the world, it rolls downhill except for here.
the work rolls downhill, but the land goes up.
Oh, that's interesting. That's a.
All right,
All right, then the other thing I do want to inform the board, and I feel like I need, because this is a bit of a change in curriculum, we do have, I've been working with the the math specialists at the grades 4 through 8, and one of the math teachers, one of the middle school math teachers, and there's a core group of about 8 to 10 students who are ready to go on to algebra. Based on their experiences last year. So that is something that we would like to offer. There had to be a little bit of moving around. We should have mentioned the teacher that's thinking about teaching it.
As long as he already knows he's willing, I think it's fine.
Yeah,
If it happens.
right. So Nick St. Germain, he had these students in 7th grade, and he worked, with Brian, the middle school teacher, and at the end of the year. And there's between 8 and 10 students who they felt pretty strongly were ready to go on to algebra for their 8th grade year. We have a new 8th grade teacher, and so Nick was willing to take on this 8th grade algebra class. But it can't happen without some movement. So what we're hoping is going to happen is the math specialist that's currently, Samantha Corwin is our new math specialist for grades 4 through 8. She would teach a 7th grade class at the same time that Mr. St. Germain is teaching the algebra class. So we couldn't figure out another way to do it in terms of
Just schedule
aligning
times.
and the schedule and everything. Now, Mr. St. Germain has also said that in order for him to be able to do an algebra class, there are some back skills that will need to be taught to some of the 8th graders. More so that they can be successful with their algebra, but also into high school math. We're talking about geometry. There's some key skills that are taught in 8th grade that are necessary for success in geometry in high school. So he would utilize the intervention block to work with some of those students to make sure that they have any gaps that they have, that he's able to support them and give them. So it's like I said, it only affects about between 8 and 10 students right now. And it would be Mr. St. Germain would teach that class at the same time that our new math specialist would go into his classroom and teach. So it would be 703 that we would shoot that.
I think it's great. How would the math specialist's other responsibilities be compromised by that?
Right, good question. The 7th and 8th grade team is going to do a waterfall schedule. They've done this in the past, and you would know what a waterfall schedule is, but and you might have a sense of it, but.
probably don't.
So maybe on, instead of using A, B, C, D, I'll just say on Monday, 7:01 class meets, 7:02 class meets next block, 7:03 class meets next block. On Tuesday, 7:03 comes up, then 7:02, then 7:01, then on Wednesday, 7:01. So it's kind of rotates like that, which would allow our math specialist that time. So if, math, if 4th grade math is at this particular block, she would be able to still go in a couple of days and to support it. So that she wasn't, pulled out at that same time every single day, so she could never work with anybody else except for this particular thing, this particular situation, make this particular situation.
We haven't done algebra for, I don't know how many years, but I think in trying to work out all the logistics to think of all of those things, but what's the trickle effect of all of this maneuvering? And I think you guys have done a great job in trying to figure out what's best for kids and identifying that that's a pretty large group of kids that had pretty, high math skills, and try to offer them the opportunity to do that. It seems like the logistics are worked out and that it can happen. Just trying to make sure everything's in place.
Long ago, I used to say that we should apply every effort to the kids that can excel, give them the resources that we give the kids that we bring up to. So,
We haven't offered algebra for a number of years,
Not the algebra to prepare for high school.
but students have been able.
Oh,
to-
they've take, yes, there's algebra, yeah, there's algebra in their class, but we haven't offered just
this
a
is
standalone algebra,
effectively
algebra
Is-
class.
So do they test out when they go to high school?
Likely, yeah.
And then they start freshman year would be.
Yeah, I don't know if Concord has I don't know if Concord has how we do that with Concord.
Yeah, it's a good.
To find that
question
out,
to
if they
find
have a
out.
test that they'll send for kids to take, or if the teacher signs off, that's a piece I'm not sure.
I mean, they have been placing into geometry in the past. A few students have been getting into ninth grade into geometry. So that's just from the 8th grade math class that has. something
Yes,
in it.
yes, yes.
So then, the last time we did algebra was that Mr. Dudley who was doing
I think so,
Yes.
I think so.
it. And he's still a resource that can be.
But we still definitely, like you said, we help the students that are excelling and we help them to be prepared for high school. But this is an unusual year where they came forward and said, there's like 8 to 10 kids that we think we can
It's a
like,
big grade.
full
too, so
steam
it
ahead.
should have,
Yeah.
Right, it's a bigger
Yeah.
class. Well, it sounds like you haven't worked out, so you're just telling us what you're gonna do.
Yeah, but I didn't want you to be caught off guard.
It's a change and the parents whose students have been identified will be
So
notified.
we just come in, you tell us what you're doing, we agree, and we don't even agree.
It's a great relationship. I like that.
Just do it.
I think I should tell my husband I got a girl.
It's just, feel like I'm at home.
So I will definitely, parents then held off until we are sure we're good to go.
I'll figure it out.
Samantha, the new math specialist is confident teaching a 7th grade class, so it's, make sure that was okay.
Should we, does the board have any issues with that?
I was just gonna say, is this an opportunity for Concord to try to engage with our kids sooner? Like, we've talked about like extracurriculars and whether that's sports or clubs and stuff. They have like a math club or something, like, maybe we try to bring in some of their students and expose them to these students, and then they've got a connection for that next step.
It's a good idea.
Just pumping the brakes.
Throwing the anchor. All right. Is that the report or is that the pre-report?
That's the pre-report.
That's the pre-report.
So I don't need to give you the maintenance list. Chris is on vacation this week, a well-deserved vacation, but his crew has, been working away. They've been painting the doors, the numbers on the doors. They've been cleaning up. We have teachers are coming in and emptying boxes and they are there to sweep them away. And so they've been doing we have a lot more to do in the next week or so, but they are continuing to do their work. And I do have a big list so far of what Mr. Layton has been working on. His brother John has also been in the building. As you can see, they took down the old and installed a new 85-inch touchscreen TV in the library. It
Great
was
funded.
Thank you, grant funded.
That's
Installed,
great.
what's that?
I love this grant guy.
I know, right? It's so sweet. Installed 5 more 65-inch new line touchscreens that were grant funded to replace the outdated whiteboards that have been in the classroom that we have not been able to purchase because we've been in the default budget. So we've been very fortunate to be able to utilize our grant funding. So we are able to purchase those for students to be more engaged. Just set up 2 more jar systems with the new 3100 Chrome, not 3100 number, the 3100 Chromebooks. And now we use USB-C power adapters, had to make some modifications to the jar system, disconnected the computer system and some phones for cleaning crews to clean and paint rooms, reconnected the systems and phones after rooms were completed, installed 18 new Dell microcomputers to replace the outdated Pentium 4 systems. Did some 3D printed mounts. You could see if you went in the classroom, but he was gonna order them from somewhere and they wanted, an obscene amount of money. He looks at it and he goes, I think I can make that printer, and he did. So upgraded all Windows 10 computer systems, reimaged them, upgraded the network operation to client for Open Enterprise, upgraded and returned the Lenovo ThinkPad laptops to teachers, upgraded the school internet connection to 1 gig by 1 gig. Is that impressive?
1 gig, yeah.
And do you know what that all means?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure it is. So this is, now we're going back to July-ish. This is a threat assessment training. A lot, several certified staff and I don't know, maybe a non-certified staff as well attended a threat assessment training at Pembroke Academy. This summer, I should have gone back in my notes to see what did I learn there. But it was very informative and it was very good information that we will move forward with in terms of updating our EOP. Our EOPs are typically due by September.
Yeah, they extended it this year
into
into October.
So the EOP will be worked on without my EOP liaison in town. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do, but we'll get it done. In addition to that, the staff has been very busy with a lot of professional development this summer. We had a team of six, myself as along with 5 teacher leaders attended the multi-tiered system of support workshop with demonstrated success. And we are in the process of getting a approval for a contract with demonstrated success. Patty Mayer reviewed it this afternoon. We will be using grant money to have them come in. They are going to support our staff in establishing tiered level intervention, tier level teams to support teachers with interventions in their classroom. In addition to that, they will support us in our work with professional learning communities, where we meet with teams of teachers, we have teams of teachers to get data and use how we work with data to inform our instruction. There's lots of companies or organizations that do MTSS work and this kind of training, because we attended the demonstrated success specifically, which is based out of Portsmouth, New Hampshire. We decided to go, they were the organization that came forward with the most support that we could use. So we will be using that fall. We already have dates planned out. Patty and I met virtually with one of the professional development people over there and planned out when they would be here, what dates they would be here, what times they would be here, the goal of why they would be here. So I'm happy to give you an update on all that information once we have that contract signed in place. In addition, our middle school teams have been meeting through the month of July. There are 4 different subcommittees that got together. There's a whole process. So we sent out a Google form, which subcommittee would you like to look at. We were looking at some of the hanging fruits. The subcommittees broke down to 4 different groups. We had a subcommittee 1 that was looking at specifically at behavior management. Subcommittee 2 was looking at social emotional learning. Subcommittee 3 was looking at academic consistency. And then we technically had 5, so I combined the subcommittee 4 and 5. So we're looking at celebrations at middle school as well as shared with leadership opportunities for students in middle school. So we did through the month, like I said, through the month of July, each subcommittee met. We talked about what are some things that are going well here, what are some things that we should try to improve on, and then put an action plan in place, start working on that action plan. Tomorrow, all 4 subcommittees are meeting together of the members that could make it. They're going to be in tomorrow. We'll be working in the library. We'll review all the work that we've done for each of the subcommittees and then give them time to work to make sure that we have some systems in place to start the school. So it has been really rewarding to do this work. Chris Motiva started this work with us last year. He came in to do one thing and then it was pivoted into, working on the culture of the middle school with our staff as well for our students, but as well as with our students.
We have some new staff in middle school.
Yeah.
Were they involved in this?
They are technically not contracted yet until day 1, but they do know that the work went on. A little further down today, I'll just jump to that. There was new teacher orientation today for all new teachers in SA 53. So yesterday, all new staff that certified staff got together at Pembroke Academy. And had a whole day around all different things that are happening. They talked about bubble classroom, they talked about ALMA, they talked about MLP, entering professional development. They talked about some best practices, building community. They met people within the SAU like Josh Berube, like when you stopped by.
I didn't get
Oh,
that,
okay.
actually, no.
All right, sorry, I need to put you on the spot. Just so you know, Peter didn't stop by either. So it technically is 2 days. Chris Motika generally runs those, that look teacher orientation. But I know somebody else stepped up. and went-
Amy, yep, Amy Parkinson, the curriculum director at the high school, offered to do the entire SAU.
Yeah,
And Kirk.
but she only needed 1 day, so I was like, oh, we're gonna take so day 2, they came here, so we were met in the library, and, so all of our new middle school teachers were here, as well as our new primary teachers, and new math specialists, and new case manager. And we just spent the day, we broke up into 3 different groups, and Brian did a very thorough tour of the building. At one point, we weren't sure if he was returning, we didn't know if they walked, into the pump, we weren't sure, they were gone for so long. Mrs. McConnell worked with another group, to answer any questions that they might have lingering from yesterday, as well as, a couple of other things, and then I worked with the group to talk about all things at PCS. From the acronyms that are so crazy here to, and what they mean to, just, answering their questions, going over schedules, all the things that, can be very overwhelming, and I'm sure they were overwhelmed, but we had a lot of fun, and I fed them, so that's always a bonus. So, some of our new teachers have already met with their teams. They've, done some curriculum planning, they've done some curriculum work, they've, on their own time, they've, met to go over ordering stuff. So the teams have absorbed our new people right into what's going on, which you would expect nothing less from Deerfield staff.
So kind of a 30,000-foot question, but should we look at, when we're preparing the next budget, some money in there to stipend new staff, so if they want to come in and kind of get a start, we have to do it.
Yeah, we do. We have
We do.
stipend work, yep, that we can do, yes.
Yeah, a lot of our stipend money has been used, so the subcommittee work, a good chunk of that is being used to pay for our current middle school teachers to come in and do that work. So I was,
Is it worth putting a line in the budget for new teacher orientation?
No, I think it's more we could look at the amount that we have,
Yes.
to see that maybe we may want to increase that, but it would be the same line, so
It would be, okay.
kind of any summer work that goes on when we bring staff in, we stipend them to come in.
part of just as an aside, the past couple of years, our teachers have not done a ton of curriculum stipend work because of COVID. So, if you look at the history over the last few years, we took $12,000 is in that line, and it has not been spent because teachers have not been,
Because COVID.
because of COVID. So, I will look to increase that line, but there is background as to why it has not necessarily all been used up.
We can write some into the ESSER grant too, because that goes until 2024, so.
Yeah.
We can do a little bit this year, a little bit next year, and supplement it with grant funds.
Yes. Yeah. In addition to all of the subcommittee work that's been happening in the middle school, team of 4 teacher leaders also attended our SAU leadership this summer, at the beginning of August. Teacher Harvey was there again to just talk about thoughtful classroom as our evaluative model to replace Charlotte Danielson at Deerfield. And got a ton of great stuff out of it. We did a 2-day training with them, and that was stipended through our grant. We did use our grant to stipend that. And we will be utilizing them for the course of this year to share out with staff and support staff as we're implementing this model a little more thoroughly this school year.
And that's, just to bring it up again, because this grant has brought some pretty wonderful things, and making sure people know that through the ESSER grant. So Harvey is Harvey Silver, and he's the co-author of the Thoughtful Classroom. So it's unusual to get the actual author of the program to be able to come out here. It's very expensive, and have him do the work with us. And the teacher leaders they loved it, and it was great having everyone together from the SAU. So we were able to grant fund that. We were able to use grant funds to get the book into every single staff member's hands, including paras. Everybody that is employed in the building will have the book and be familiar with the 4 cornerstones and the work that we're doing. So that's been another huge benefit of the grant.
Teacher Harvey, wrote a book with Jamie T. I'm just throwing that to the educator to my right, because I'm sure you know who Jamie T is, right? And I was so starstruck. So, in addition to, the curriculum work that was done with Teacher Leader, MTSS, the subcommittee work, we've also been doing, ELA's, curriculum work and math curriculum work. A lot of our teams have attended Carolyn Worcester's. Carolyn Worcester was brought in as a consultant, specifically when we did a math consultant.
She, really, when we started Eureka, she was one of the early trainers for that.
Yeah. And a couple of our staff members attended her sessions last year. They've just got a ton out of it. And our teachers that have attended the math PD have been raving about the work that they did. Even to incorporate some center work and games that go along with math that they're teaching. So it's been great. It's been great to see the enthusiasm for that. And then we also, day 3, so 2 days was with Teacher Harvey, and then on day 3, the principals got together for some leadership to talk about thoughtful classroom and how we're going to incorporate that into not only an evaluation model for administration, but also being consistent throughout the SAU in the practices that we'll utilize for our staff that are currently here. And then I talked about the teacher orientation. And lastly, I did send out a big update email. I'm sure everybody read word for word exactly what I wrote. There was no questions except, but there was a ton of information in there about the barbecue, about the double runs, about new staff, as well as changing staff, changing grade level or changing position. And I also included information on feedback. So I've not gotten any feedback from that email yet. So usually I get 2 or 3 emails questioning or asking or clarifying. And just upcoming, the countdown stretches on. We have our certified staff will return a week from tomorrow, next Thursday on the 25th. All staff will return on the 26th. We have our back to school barbecue, and students are returning on August 29th. So just stove those backpacks, clean out those lunch boxes, and let's get going.
The SAS results, I know individual SAS results have gone home with parents, but have we seen statewide results yet?
Fall.
Sometime in the fall. Questions? All right, this brings us to policies. We have 2 on the docket tonight.
Yes, so my new admin assistant is just getting trained on the policies, and I don't know that the edits were actually put into the drive for BEGG. So if we could just wait on those, I just want to make sure she's up to
She's doing a
speed.
great job, so.
She's amazing, but
Doing a great job.
it's a
Okay.
lot, so policies is next on our agenda.
So policies
We're
is.
just gonna pause those if we can.
Bring up the brakes.
Yes, please, thanks.
Patty, just toss it all anchor.
The only feedback I have on at least what I'm saying for BEDG,
Yep,
it's for meeting minutes.
Yep.
We've already got policy BEDGR for access to minutes and public records. Is there overlap, or are they?
so BEDG is the primary policy, and then any policy that's -R is more procedural. So
Okay.
we're trying to update our policies, so when they're referenced, you actually have both, because you'll see that that one was named in another policy that we have, but we didn't have this one.
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to avoid having like 4 different
Redundancy.
policies about
Mhm.
meeting minutes.
Right,
Like, I mean, this thing's already 6 pages, why not
Yeah,
have,
which is
it should just be 7
crazy,
pages.
right,
And then everything's in one policy.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
perfect, thank you.
Informational, I don't believe. Did you?
Just I had a couple of things. Just to let everyone know, we received the intent to bargain for the new collective bargaining agreement, so we'll be setting up a meeting soon, to schedule that. And then,
Negotiators are
Gigi and myself, I believe.
Gigi, right?
ready to roll.
Let's get out of that.
Me and Gigi, if I remember correctly.
It's in writing, so on the chart. And the other thing that we're working on that I keep forgetting to bring up at a board meeting, we have employed Malloy Sound, and I think I emailed maybe Zach about this earlier in the year, for a number of years to do the annual meeting. And we've been talking here about maybe doing that ourselves. It's pretty cumbersome. They have really good equipment, so I just want to make sure we have quality audio for that meeting because it's really important, but typically they, you know, burn something onto a CD and then we wait a couple of weeks and people are anxious and they want to see the recording. So if we can do it in-house, we're probably gonna make that switch.
How much do they charge us?
Thousands.
Okay.
It's very expensive. So
Is it,
if we can do it, we won't do it unless we have good quality, but we're looking into it.
we can experiment well in advance of,
Oh, yeah, yeah, then, yeah.
okay.
Then Brooke felt confident that she could work on it and we could probably pull it off, but we will make sure.
Stipend and responsibility.
Yeah, I would, and I would take some of the, yeah, because that would be an outside for sure. Yeah. But I'll keep you posted. Just wanted to let you know.
Is that it?
Mhm.
Okay, so, public comments? No, yes, no, okay. Per NHRSA 9183, small letters K, B and C, I look for the motion in non-public. Moved by Andy, seconded by Jeff, requires a roll call vote. Nate?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Jeff?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
It is 8:16 and we are entering non-public. Thank you very much, folks, for attending.